Hi, I'm Bruce Wells. I teach in the Middle Eastern Studies Department at the University of Texas at Austin. And the question right now for us is, what was ancient Sumer and why should we care about it? Well, ancient Sumer is the name of a civilization that began in southern Iraq. Iraq, of course, is a big country in the Middle East. And when we talk about it in terms of the ancient world, we often refer to it as Mesopotamia, which was the Greek name for it. Mesopotamia means the land between the two rivers, meaning the Euphrates River on the one hand and the Tigris River on the other. And these two rivers flow down into a big body of water called the Persian Gulf. If you go in between those two rivers, again in southern Iraq, you would find the land where ancient Sumer had its civilization. Now, the name Sumer was actually given to this group of people who lived there by another group of people who came after them. So we don't know exactly the best term to use for this civilization, but we'll go with Sumer. It's in all the textbooks. It's what everybody says, and it'll work just fine. We also don't know where these people came from before they settled down in this particular area. They might have come from North Africa, some people say. They might have come from what's called Arabia, which would have been a little bit to the west and then to the south. They might have come from the east, over in Central Asia, and migrated to this land we now call Sumer. We don't know. But we know that they created a civilization there and that they started a lot of things that we still use today. They engaged in highly productive agriculture, so they grew a lot of grain, mainly barley, to feed the population, and we still use some of their techniques for irrigation around the world that they developed there in Sumer. They developed the 12-month calendar, and even though our calendar is somewhat different today, we still divide the year into the same basic groups that we call months. 12 months. They developed the first writing system that we know of in the whole world. And it looked kind of weird at first. At first they drew little pictures to represent things. And if you look closely, it sort of looks like a donkey with two ears, and that stood for the word donkey, the Sumerian word for donkey. Eventually, that little symbol for the donkey gets turned 90 degrees counterclockwise to the left, and you end up with a symbol like this one. And if you turn it this way, you can kind of see the ears on top again. But this started out as these little pictures, and later on they came to represent words and then sounds, almost like letters do for us today. And they put all these different drawings together to create a written language. The Sumerian language is interesting because it's not related to any other language family that we know of. It started out as one of maybe the world's first language. Well, I shouldn't say that. There were probably other languages that people were speaking before then that we just don't know about. But it's the world's first written language. And for some reason, no other languages developed afterwards are related to it. So we have language, writing, a written language in Sumer. We have certain kinds of agriculture, the 12-month calendar. The first legal systems we know of come about in ancient Sumer. Diplomacy, certain kinds of government, like setting up kings over a small area and running what we call a city-state, where the city's the main area, but you also govern little villages around the city. All of these things, as far as we know, were first developed in ancient Sumer. And that's why in schools today, kids in all kinds of different classes will learn about ancient Sumer being a very early civilization. It was somewhat easy to live there and grow crops because the two rivers nearby would overflow their banks and end up on the fields there to water the fields because they didn't get a lot of rain. And if you allow the water to come onto the fields just enough but not too much, you can get your crops to grow really well. And that was why a lot of people settled there and stayed there, and civilization developed from there.